Hvala vsem za sodelovanje, za pomoč pri kreiranju teh idej, ki nam bojo zelo koristile za pripravo programa CERA 2020, ampak s tem tudi naslavljanje odločevalcev, naslavljanje izobraževalnega sektorja in v bistvu tudi programa za vodenje predsedovanja Evropske unije in prestrukturiranje gospodarstva. Jaz upam, da so vam zeleni koktejli brezalkoholni zdaj dali nekaj energije, malo antioksidantov, pokazalo se je učinkovito delo, ker potem po okrogli mizi nam pa sledijo seveda še ta pravi zeleni koktejli. Tako da zdaj bi pa na oder povabila naše sogovorce, ki bi naredili refleksijo z zaključnimi mislimi, gospo Medejo Lončar, direktorico Siemens Slovenija in Siemens Hrvaška. En aplavz, prosim. Siemens je mednarodna korporacija, ki se zaveda trajnostnega razvoja v interesu prihodnjih generacij. Izvajajo pomembne korake v uresničevanju cilja, da do leta 2030 postanejo ogljično nevtralno podjetje. Osredotočeni so na 4 vzvode, na energetsko učinkovitost, na decentralizirane energetske sisteme, inteligentne rešitve za e-mobilnost in zeleni nakup električne energije. In mi smo zelo ponosni in veseli, da ste naši člani in da nam dajete veliko energije in znanja. Hvala. Naslednjega vabim gospoda Marjana Beltrama. En aplavz za njega. Marjan je izvršni direktor za turizem in storitve mobilnosti in član uprave v podjetju Nomago. Odgovoren je za področje turizma, storitev mobilnosti in digitalizacijo procesov ter storitev. Ima 18 let izkušenj v industriji potovanj in letalskih prevozov, predvsem na področjih informatike, novih investicij, ustvarjanja in uvedbe novih produktov, digitalizacije ter financ. Tudi Nomago je naš novi partner in smo zelo veseli vseh teh inputov strani razvoja mobilnosti v Sloveniji. En aplavz. Naslednjega vabim dr. Draskota Veselinoviča. En aplavz, prosim. Dr. Drasko Veselinovič je izredni profesor za finančno ekonomijo in predsednik uprave Slovenskega gospodarskega in raziskovalnega združenja v Bruslju. Edine tovrstne slovenske institucije v tujini od začetka leta 2015. V svoji aktivni in plodni karieri je nanizal številne najvišje vodstvene funkcije v različnih finančnih institucijah. Bil je vodja ustanovitve in prvi generalni direktor Ljubljanske borze, vodil je Deželno banko Slovenije, bil je predsednik uprave največje slovenske mednarodne banke NLB, vodil je skupino tudi KD Group. Danes delovanje med drugim poudarjeno usmerja v trajnostno naravnane projekte in si prizadeva za financiranje zelenih projektov. In tudi vaše združenje je zadnji mesec član CERA, s tem smo pristopili tudi v finančni sektor, kar nam je v velikem interesu. The next speaker is an applause, of course. Sorry, everyone. The next speaker, a participant of the round table, is René Schmidpeter, Dr. Schmidpeter. Njega sem že prej predstavila, skratka direktor Centra Advanced Sustainability in generalni sekretar Svetovnega inštituta za trajnostno etiko v rastočih gospodarstvih. Okroglo mizo bo moderiral magister Žiga Čebulj. Žiga, izvoli.
Jezik?
Angleški.
English, okay?
English.
Good. Hi. How are you? Everybody doing fine? Green, sustainable? Medeja, you're coming from a big multinational, powerful company, Siemens. Why are you getting more green, and how green will you be in the next 5 years?
Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I'm coming from Siemens, and Siemens is a very old corporation that managed to somehow survive through many also technological changes during this more than 170 years. And from the beginning, basically, some sustainable goals that were already at that time defined by our founder Like we won't sell the company for the short-term profit. These were one of the words of Werner von Siemens when he started with his business. So this is somehow still the really red line of all the activities for the corporation. And we do our vision is and our mission statement, basically we do things that matter. Yeah? And if we do things that matter, of course we have to address also, and we are addressing the environmental issues. First, we do it within our corporation, because we are somehow lucky that we are in specific industries that can really solve issues related to environmental challenges at our customers. But on the other hand, we decided to first address our own development. So we were the first industrial company that declared that we want to be the carbon neutral till 2030. And we are really well on track. We started in 2014. And till now, we decreased the CO2 emissions for more than 33% already. So we are sure we will come to that. We are also leading in all the international indexes related to sustainability, so including Dow Jones Sustainability Index for our industry. What is also very important is that more than 46% of our revenues we already now create somehow with a product portfolio that is related to environmental basically technologies. So it means we do things on both sides, as I said, internally and externally.
How much do you invest in R&D, in let's say sustainable R&D yearly?
In R&D, 5.6 billion euros.
That's
The
around
whole-
5% of your total income as a corporation. 5 billion.
It's almost 6. It's all together. It's not only sustainable.
Okay.
It's not only this portion, but as I said, 46% is basically the revenues from the environmental technologies. And moreover, what we declare currently that also all new technologies, and this is really a strong message also from Siemens management and also supervisory board. I would really suggest you to read a very interesting article from Mr. Snabe. He is the supervisory board president of Siemens. He used to be the CEO of SAP. And what he somehow claimed in that article, that also all investments in the artificial intelligence for the future should primarily address the most critical issues that we as humans have. And also the AI should first tackle the environmental issues, the waste management issues, that we as Europe also should invest into artificial intelligence that would make our planet better, not that to the one that would somehow encourage us to put more into non-really needed goods. Yeah.
Cool. So investing in sustainable business model, how does it show on the profit? Does it show actually?
I mean, we have our profit is growing, so for sure we are somehow also the proof that you can invest in environmental technologies and you can have sustainable and growing business. Of course, quite a portion of our business is related to energy sector, where we of course constantly also invest into energy efficiency, but we also develop new technologies like Power to X and all other new technologies that should address the issues that are related to sustainability also in the future. But of course, there is always a challenge because there are some ICT areas also within Siemens are much more profitable than the classical energy sector and so on. So there is always somehow a trade-off, but as I said, also the percentage of the revenues related to environmental is growing, so it doesn't mean that we would stop to invest also in these areas.
I did love the presentation of Mr. Schmidpeter, who said it's not a trade-off, actually, sustainability versus profit, but we'll come back to that. But from the big multinational going to a startup, if I may say so, Nomago, right? I see you're laughing, of course, but you're a young company, inspiring, doing a big change in the Slovenian and other markets now, okay? So what is actually, are you more sustainable or less sustainable than other mobility providers, your direct competitors?
I would say that we are a startup, a year and a half old, but then again, we are a 90-year-old company, so we're close to Siemens, yeah? So, and I think we've been sustainable for 90 years because, we've been always providing people going onto buses instead of, driving their cars. So it was, even though, our buses were maybe dirty or whatever, but they were still, having 50 people on it instead of one driving on each road every morning, yeah? And if we are cleaner than everybody else, I hope we will become, because this is why the startup started a year and a half ago. We want to be different, we want to be digital, we want to change the mentality of traveling from A to B. We don't want to just do the public transport, we want to be open to other ways of transport, like carpooling, car sharing, micromobility, so for us, mobility is different to what mobility was maybe, 20 years ago when everybody wanted to have a car and having bigger highways and more infrastructure. We want to change that and make it much greener in a way that, nobody will use cars. The infrastructure is, in our opinion, satisfactory currently, or we want it to be in 5-10 years,
Okay, but I follow your company via the media a lot, so you're talking about electric buses, you're talking about hydrogen power, you're not just talking, you're actually implementing it. So how much effort are you putting, in the terms of effort and finance, of course, at the end of the day, in these new, greener technologies in mobility?
Yeah, if you're asking about P&L, we're on the cost side, definitely. It's we're just investing. We're looking into the new technologies. With the power, is it electricity, as you said, or hydrogen? Only time will tell. We introduced the first electric bus together with BTC here locally. Yeah, it was just a couple of weeks ago, I guess. And we have a really strong. Basically, we gave ourselves 2 years to get our first, I think, 4 buses that would be completely electric on a city-to-city way. So this is going to be a huge change because the technology is not yet there, or it's not price-wise and performance-wise as it should be. So yeah, we're leading the way, but I think that in this part, electricity, hydrogen, or any other means of powering the transport, the technology is not there yet. So we are really hard. It's hard for us to commit to that. If there would be the technology 100% and the price would be just right for us, I think we would change the whole fleets in the next 10 years, But saying that,
so is the technology too costly for you at the moment? Is it influencing
technology
P&L
definitely
too
is too
much?
costly,
Yeah.
I mean, the price versus, for example, a normal bus would cost $250,000, an electric bus would cost $500,000. So this is where we are looking forward, to getting new fundings from EU. Especially also for businesses, not only for municipalities and governments, and with that, this will be the future. But it has to be a future that will, has to be boosted by somebody else. because also like all technologies like TVs were really expensive when the LCDs came, yeah, and then the mass production and everything came down. So this is the same thing here,
Again, referring to Mr. Schmidpeter's presentation, so there was a lovely slide, if you remember, a bit of basil, a salad made of basil, and a salad made out of green euros, right? Did I get it correctly? Okay. So you were saying, okay, the buses are costly, but what kind of new business models referring to the basil leaf salad or salad of green euros are you thinking about that your P&L at the end of the day will look even better than it does today?
Yeah, I think we're with a little bit of green, yeah, in that area. So yeah, the change is definitely in the way, of course, changing our A to B, the means of transport, and definitely, the idea is to change the whole perception of technology, so that it should change to we call it MaaS. It's mobility as a service. So basically connecting all transport and putting people off vehicles and putting them onto our transportation. So we have an initiative 50-1, and this initiative is the backbone of the change of our business model in the future.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in here something, because you start talking about the cost of these buses, which is, let's say, twice as expensive as, let's say, the normal bus, so to say. But just to explain briefly, I mean, how European Union financing functions, I mean, in this respect. I mean, you will not be able to get money from European Union to buy these buses, these more expensive buses, and they would become cheaper, and you would then, of course, obviously use them and so on. I mean, the principle is that, let's say, European Commission finances projects which would make these buses cheaper. So they would, let's say, finance innovations, how these buses would be done faster, cheaper, those batteries would be much more efficient and similar. So this is financed basically by European Commission. And when somebody produces then products like this, being co-financed or even completely financed in some cases, then obviously you'll be able to buy them cheaper, and then you would then use them and so on. So this is the logic behind everything, and that's what we do. So, I mean, I just jumped in, but I'll get probably some questions later on about that, but...
No, yeah, I understand. This is the smart way to do it, because you're then progressing the whole, business side and the technology side, yeah. But on the other side, when we're looking at that, is that municipalities are in this way. How we did like in Celje, for example. They just bought a fleet of CNG propelled buses, yeah, and we are managing them, and we could not get them at that price at the beginning subsidized in order to go ahead, for example.
Yeah, of course, some national governments subsidize, of course, electricity cars and so on, and but I mean, I just wanted to make that, let's say, basic logic how these things are financed.
Can I make a short comment also to that? Because I think we do have issues, and there is one very important point is the life cycle cost assessment is a very important element that would help us all really assessing the business models. And this is where also often in our or public tenders and in many aspects we underestimate the life cycle cost assessment, and we focus on the current cost of either bus or whatever product. And if we would take the whole life cycle into perspective and make the measurements and the criteria towards that, it would already now be in many times much better than it looks like. Yeah, and this is what we have proven to ourselves also at Siemens. We do that for ourselves, and we do this for our customers. Yeah.
Great. Since you are pivoting a bit the discussion, I'll just join you. So it was, Anna started her presentation with a flood in Piran. You saw the picture, right? So it was a big flood, 1 meter in Piran, etc. So at the same time, Venice were flooded. And when Venice were flooded, the local government of Veneto had a big discussion. Did you follow that, right? And there the big discussion was whether we should invest 2.6 billion in fixing the damages of the environmental changes, or putting 1 billion out of that into investing to having less problem in the future. And the local government of Veneto chose that they will support 2.6 billion program to fix the damages. And after 2 minutes after the voting, their premises were flooded. You definitely saw that, right? So it is playing with the nature. And I'll now jump to you, Mr. Veselinovic. So everybody's looking, you're in the Brussels, you're living in the halls of the Brussels, you know many decision makers there. So everybody's looking at this Green Deal. I myself was involved in retail as a CEO of the largest fashion retail operator here in the Balkans. And for us, Black Friday was a miracle. So Black Friday is coming, and this was always a chin-chin. But when I'm thinking about the sustainability, I cannot go past the Black Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays in the history, right? And after the first Black Monday and Tuesday in the 30s, okay, 29 and then in the 30s crisis, so the New Deal happened. And now the Europe is thinking about Green Deal. So what is this Green Deal going to look like? And what are the similarities with the 30s crisis in the States? If you can comment a bit on that one, please.
Yeah, thank you for this question. Yes, Green Deal is big word now in Brussels, and probably you know what it's all about, I guess. So Ursula von der Leyen, she was elected today, and the whole Commission, they start their job on the 1st December. So we're finally getting the European government, and I presume that also the budget will be then adopted and accepted by the Parliament pretty soon after that. So we are, now looking for the new budget, which will of course address also these questions quite a lot. She promised a lot with this Green Deal. Her speech was full of that, and I think everybody has some expectations from that and from then on. And as you know, she announced that she would like to have 50% less carbon emissions by 2030. Is the starting point 1990 though? I don't know why this is like that, because comparison should be made from today till 2030, right? They put the starting point 1990 and compare it to 2030, but okay, her plan is 50% less. Now the target is 40% less, and some green parties are even advocating for 60-70% less, which is good, and according to the, some stories that we have right now, and US story and so on, this makes sense, of course. And okay, there's some additional changes also. She plans to this EU emission trading, that we have. She wants to include also maritime, aviation, traffic, and construction sector into that. So also these industries or sectors will have to, pay for the damage they make. And she's also looking for carbon tax on foreign firms in European Union. So this is also quite challenging. We can immediately expect probably some US counter measures, whatever. We are already getting used to it, don't we? But nevertheless, some big corporations like steel giants and so on, which are of course the biggest damagers. They accepted that. They said, okay, we buy that. We have to do something. So it's not so black, and this is, actually it's very green. But we hope this will really happen. And of course, this is just the program. She was just advocating for that. Now, of course, measures have to come up and so on. And as you know, a lot of directives are now, let's say, being there, but some more detailed, I would say, sub-laws have to be published as well. Like, let's say, on the green bonds, how you follow the money, how the specifications, we have like 200 billion green bonds around, but you're not always sure if this money really goes in some green projects altogether. So there are a lot of challenges, but I have good, I would say, expectations, because if somebody addresses so strongly before starting a term, and she was choosing also other candidates quite precisely, I would say, these are good promises, I think.
Okay, before giving them 100 days, Mr. Schmidpeter, you wanted
maybe to add what's going on right now. Our interest rate is very low, as everyone knows. So we are close to 0% or even less. This means the central banks are already politically controlling our interest rate. Yeah? So normally, at least from a German perspective, the last years it should be much higher. Yeah? But we had this low interest rates. This means a lot of money floods to the markets. Yeah? But this is on political will. Yeah? It's not a market, it's a political will. And if we really enter into recession, there's already plans even lowering the interest rate. So it might go down to -2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever. Normally you lower by 5% if you get to recession. And this means that the interest rate is already kind of politically controlled. We have no free markets on the interest rates anymore. And then it becomes natural that if I'm, as politicians, give so much money to the markets, I want to achieve my political goals. And if the political goals are really sustainability, fights climate change, politics will much more intervene, and that's what they actually are doing right now, how this money will be used. And this is what I was showing with one slide, that 80% of the regulation will direct it to the investors. Yeah? So the banks have now to, if you want to have a loan for 0 interest, or a very low interest rate, the bank only can give it to you if you fulfill, for example, CO2 and climate goals of the European Union, which they directly force the investors, the banks, to ask the customers. Yeah? So we are now entering a very, I would say, political market. Not that I judge about it, I don't say whether it's good or bad. Yeah? I think free markets are better. But right now we are having so much political control over the interest rate that they now decide to use this power also to see and decide who will get the money from the central banks. And if they do it in a sustainable way, I think it's a good political decision, and this will happen. And this also means that in the future there will be, and that's what I was saying, there will be no trade-off anymore, because we will get rid of the trade-off, because we will change and externalizing costs will not function anymore. The political framework will re-internalize the costs of CO2 emissions.
That's great. I'm investing in startups, okay?
Startups,
and it
good.
seems that the biggest chunk of the funds, of the green funds, will go to the big corporations like Medeja here, Siemens, etc. Okay? So they are actually making the biggest change at the moment, as you said at the beginning. Okay, here we all agree. Yeah. But what should we do then? Wait aside and watch? Okay, low interest rates are working for us as startups, okay? But at the end of the day, what do you expect then from the tech community, startup community, etc.?
As an investor, and that's what's already happening, is they are screening any company by environmental, social, governance, performance, because through to the reporting disclosure, we get all the data. So we can actually see which companies are performing very good in terms of social, environmental, and governance. And since those companies are also the most profitable companies for the future, you still have the opportunity to invest the money into those companies. Don't matter whether they're small or large. So I would go out of large companies who are not taking sustainability serious and give it, for example, to Siemens, but also to small enterprises who just start and with this idea. That's a change right now. So basically it's an internalization of the formerly publicly costs by politicians. And the second group which will jump in are the next generations, the customers. The young people think differently. They won't buy products anymore which are destroying their future. And the third one is that reality will change it, because certain business models won't function any longer because of the lack of resources. So this is basically the problem now with electromobility, because also to build 10 million or 100 million new cars, even if it's electric cars, where do the resources come from, with the batteries and so on. And so we really have to think every business model, whether politics will enforce it, if the customer, but also reality, the nature will even allow this business model. And this is what's happening. The business models need to change.
Thank you. Mr. Veselinovic wanted to join us, and Ms. Lončar wanted to join us, please.
Yeah, there are some additional, I would say, very important financial instruments. There will be transition funds, so-called, for the regions in Europe which face more problems regarding the fossil fuels. So this is very important, because according to this plan from Ursula von der Leyen, a lot of regions and let's say some Eastern European countries were objecting because they had, I mean, more severe problems regarding these issues. And not to mention European Investment Bank. This is a very important institution which, of course, cooperates with European Commission a lot, and even President of Commission von der Leyen said that this is partner in European Commission plan to go more green. And let's say, for example, EIB invests or credits projects which based on fossil fuels only till 2021. After that, not anymore. And there's also Sustainable Europe Investment Plan, which will address also agriculture regarding all these bad issues. So there are a lot of things going on, really. And I mean, I didn't have a chance to mention, well, I mentioned to some people before when we discussed this presentation I prepared, which will not use it, obviously, but these are all the different tenders for different calls. Some are right now on, and some are coming up. Let's just read me let me read just few, let's say, I've done. For example, just to give you the impression, here are, let's say, like 50 different tenders for all kinds of things we are talking about. So, and that's our specialty of our company that we do in Brussels. So we help companies, you know, ministries, universities, institutes, and so on, to obtain EU funding for EU projects. This is our main thing that we do in Brussels, except organize these conferences and do some lobbying as well. But let me just read, for example, to get the idea what kind of calls are right now open. Okay, this is one in Africa, maybe this one not so interesting, but okay, let's say this one, pre-commercial procurement for 100% renewable energy supply. This one is due on 26 March 2020. This is quite late to go for it, but next one, for example, would be innovative nature-based solutions for carbon neutral cities and improved air quality, advancing climate services, climate resilience of European coastal cities and settlements, understanding climate, water, energy, food nexus, and streamlining water-related policies, forest fires risk reduction, towards an integrated fire management approach. So these are all due in February next year or so. But you might be late for this. But let me, I mean, just few more, okay?
Cool.
Preserving fresh water, recycling industrial waters industry. We have already these calls which are coming up, so we offer our customers also this, so to prepare, to have enough time to prepare for all these calls which are coming up, let's say, in a year time or so. Alternative mineral resources for high volume production. Developing pilot circular systems in plastics, textiles, and furniture sectors. I mean, all of this, I mean, so I still think that people are not aware enough of possibilities of using these funds. So I think this opportunity that I mean, being also a member here, that I can introduce here maybe in some next occasions more detailed about what this association is doing, this network, and give you this access to that.
We would be glad, and also to share this information after today.
We will get back to that, of course. Ms. Lončar, you wanted to
One
jump in.
feedback. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to your presentation before, and I don't know whether you were discussing, but basically, what can Europe do currently? What is the competitive advantage of Europe? We lost the battle already in the digitalization area between America and China. It's our last resort that we really focus on these environmental topics, and we can be the center for the more advanced people all globally who would see Europe as also the last resort of humanity. And from that aspect, I think it's really smart what Europe is currently doing, or it's basically the only way that we can proceed currently. And I wouldn't now ask ourselves whether it's smart or not. I believe for Europe, it's one of the really the ways where we have to go, yeah.
So, our time, we have a few minutes left. Okay. So far I've learned, and thank you so much for this. So, leadership. So we are going on the EU level. So EU, of course, is going to be greener if it wants to survive in the end of the day in the competitive global market. Okay. Big corporations are doing what they can. Startups, I'm sorry, but I totally need to do that. Startups are going that directions. Thanks goodness there are finance backed by EU funds or available on the market or via other institutions. And there are new business models, obviously. So we did check that. But now, since we are talking about the green leadership of the future, so we discussed about the companies. And this is the question for the same for each and every one of you. What is the green manager, the green leader of the future? How is he or she different from the managers that exist today? Mr. Schmidpeter, please, we'll start with you.
I would say it's all about mindset. So if you judge a new manager, I think he won't think in trade-offs anymore. He would just see the purpose he and the company serves. And if you are clear about your purpose, you make the decision according to the purpose, not to the profit. But, and that's the good news, those companies who have a strong purpose and go for it make also more profit. So I think this has changed. And allow me a last remark. This is also necessary to change our shareholder value models, because with negative interest rates, the valuation of companies don't make sense anymore, because normally the profit in the future is discounted by a positive interest rate. But if the interest rates as now are going negative, this would mean according to the old model, that profits in the future are worth more than today. And this, of course, is not management thinking. And this is why all the investors now are heavily looking for a new model about how to judge about the value of a company. And the value of a company in the future will be judged by its purpose and positive impact to society. And that's something where we as academics work heavily together with them to get KPIs, measurement, and also politics interested in this. And the management, and that's what you were asking, the new manager goes for this new kind of business thinking and also doesn't see his actions in any kind of a trade-off what society needs.
Thank you. Mr. Beltram, what's your idea of...
I completely agree. You know, it's a really great point. You know, I think that the new leaders will have to be more daring than the previous ones, and I think it's really important to talk about owners as well. You know, because they will have to allow that, because the owners now are always thinking about EBITDA and the profits, and it's very financial. You know, and I think those KPIs should go into the owners as well. You know. And this is the big change, you know. So, yeah, daring, flexible, open-minded. The goal set has to be more, as said, towards satisfying the whole, the whole community. You know, seeing the bigger picture behind that, not just tomorrow.
Okay, it's quite personal. You can totally skip the answering it, but when I was listening to you, so you seem like a green leader of the future, and you were referring to the owners. Is this the case that you are facing in Nomago or not?
No. This is just what I see. You know, we are 100% backed. You know, and that's why we are, developing the new ways of mobility. And I'm just looking, at what the constant is, I guess. Especially in Slovenia. You know.
It's good to hear that management is backed by the owners always. Thank you very much. Ms. Lončar, the word is yours. Green leaders of the future.
So I totally agree with your somehow description. I believe that there are quite some green leaders already in the world, not only in Europe, but we see a lot of also our customers in Europe thinking in this direction. What I would refer to, we were talking more about energy efficiency. We should think about system efficiency as a whole. Yeah, this is what also our CEO he wrote for the first time in his history, like a pamphlet or a kind of encouragement also for Europe, what we should do within Europe, and really these shifts toward really looking into the whole system. I think this will be something that would determine the leader of the future. Not only my small system, but the whole ecosystem, how my interactions influence the whole system.
Good, so close to the purpose and values, etc. Thank you very much. Mr. Veselinovic.
Yeah, it's difficult to add because I'm the last one to say something about this subject, but I think managers of the future have to be also very knowledgeable in this area because there are quite some innovations here, some new stuff, and if you don't know what it's all about, it's difficult to advocate it, right? Also to explain it to the, let's say, owners and so on, which, I mean, and who should support you, right? So I think this is also important to follow the knowledge, to be not really maybe expert, but to know what is all about. What are the costs, what are, of course, the benefits, long-term benefits. But I think also that everything starts from yourself as a person. I mean, if you're a person who supports, I mean, who behaves ecologically, you know, with some, let's say, good ideas how to behave at your home, stuff like that. I mean, everything goes from that. From one side, and from the other side, it also depends what kind of leaders do we have. I mean, I guess in US it's maybe quite difficult to be very climate aware now. I mean, maybe it's different kind of atmosphere, right? But I mean, so I think it's bottom up and top down approach, and of course you have to know what you're doing yourself and persuade your owners if they are not aware themselves already.
Cool. The last question. Very fast answers, please. New Year is coming. New resolutions that we'll be doing on personally. One thing, what you will change personally in next year that you as a person, so you trigger this one, will be more sustainable, more future leadership oriented, more green oriented, and so one thing, please. You have 10 seconds.
Well, maybe like motto of our group, you know, 100% sustainable before everyone else.
Great, thank you. Ms. Lončar, please.
Oh, heavily thinking about e-car, I have to say, yeah, the first one in the family.
Okay, good. There are some good providers of the cars here in this area. Okay, e-cars especially. Yeah, good.
Already did it this year. We sold the second car, went to car sharing. So, yeah, next year, getting rid of the second one, it's really hard.
Good, perfect.
I would say focus. Use more of my time for the relevant things.
Okay, I'll go into the details later on the cocktail. Thank you very much. Thank you, gents and ladies. Thank you very much.
Hvala. Hvala. Hvala vsem sodelujočim na razpravi. Hvala, Žiga, tebi za moderiranje. Thank you, Mr. Schmidpeter. Mislim, da je bil to en fantastičen zaključek tega leta z super idejami, za vse nas, ena refleksija in v bistvu popotnica za naprej, da bomo lažje sestavili vsi svoje plane, gotovo jih še pripravljate in upam, da vam bo marsikaj koristilo danes, kar ste slišali tukaj. S tem zaključujemo. Jaz bi samo še povedala, da danes je tukaj še ena zelena tehnologija, ki je spremljala klimo v tem prostoru, strani podjetja Lotrič, Exactum. Tamle boste lahko na hitro videli, kakšen je CO2 nastal, kakšna vlaga s tem, ko smo odhajali ven noter. Seveda bomo to vse delili z vami v poročilu, tako da boste malo videli, kaj se nam je dogajalo, kdaj smo bili bolj zaspani in kdaj smo lažje razmišljali, ampak zdaj mislim, da si pa vsi zaslužimo en zeleni koktajl, tako da vabljeni na eno izmed prvih prednovoletnih zabav. Hvala, ker ste bili z nami.